June 2026. A Korean delegation composed of EUREXS, the Korea-Ukraine New Building Association, Better World, and K-World, completed its participation in the Ukraine Recovery Conference 2026. Held in Gdańsk, Poland, the delegation departed from Warsaw, crossed the border into Ukraine, visited Lviv and Drohobych, and then continued toward Kyiv, the capital of Ukraine. This journey was not simply a field visit. It was a mission to identify practical reconstruction projects that could connect housing, employment, healthcare, and education for people who had lost their homes and their communities because of the war. Ukraine is an important European nation with fertile farmland, abundant resources, and highly skilled people. However, since the full-scale invasion began in 2022, cities and energy infrastructure have been destroyed, and countless families have suffered deep and painful losses. Even so, the Ukrainian people have continued to protect their daily lives while preparing for a future beyond the war. The train from Lviv crossed the darkened plains and arrived at Kyiv Central Station. In a city where the curfew begins at 11 p.m., the delegation quickly traveled to the hotel by boat. Even during the war, transportation, communications, and financial services continued to operate. The next morning, the streets of Kyiv appeared, more peaceful than expected. Cars moved through the city, shops and cafes opened, and people went to work. Yet behind this ordinary scene was the constant tension of not knowing when the next air raid alert would sound. War and everyday life were continuing side by side. In the same city, the delegation visited St. Michael's Golden Domed Monastery and Independence Square. Around the beautiful golden domes were photographs of those who had lost their lives in the war, along with flowers and small Ukrainian flags. The people in those photographs were someone's child, someone's husband or wife, someone's parent, and someone's friend. Visitors stopped in silence. Some shed tears, others prayed quietly. The war we had previously seen, only through statistics and headlines, became the painful loss of real people and real families. War does not destroy only buildings and roads. It also leaves invisible wounds in the hearts of children who have lost their families, veterans returning from the battlefield, and displaced people forced to leave their homes. Local representatives explained that anxiety, depression, and post-traumatic stress have become especially serious among younger generations. The Korean delegation discussed possible cooperation in trauma care, rehabilitation medicine, and biomedical health care. The goal is to connect Korean medical technology with the experience of Ukrainian healthcare professionals. It is a model of care in which the body, the mind, the family, and the community can recover together. What we hope to build is not simply another hospital. It is a starting point for recovery, where wounded people can regain the courage to rebuild their lives. The delegation also met with representatives of NGOs supporting war orphans, single-parent families, and the children of wounded veterans. Families affected by the war need more than emergency supplies. They need safe housing, education, healthcare, employment, and opportunities to start new businesses. The goal is not to keep people dependent on assistance. It is to help them stand on their own again. That is what we believe true reconstruction should mean. The delegation then attended a business meeting hosted by the president of the Ukrainian Chamber of Commerce and Industry. There, the delegation met with representatives of Ukraine's drone industry and discussed opportunities for technological and business cooperation with Korea. Ukraine has rapidly developed drone technology and field experience. During the war, Korea has strong manufacturing capabilities and an advanced industrial base. By connecting these strengths, the two countries may be able to create new models of cooperation. The discussion went beyond simple product transactions. It also included joint research, technology exchange, production cooperation, and workforce development. The delegation then visited the Zolotonosha City Council near Cherkasy. After traveling through wide plains and farmland, the delegation met with local government officials to discuss housing reconstruction, energy, agriculture, and the future of the region. The Korean delegation proposed a Korean-style smart village model, connecting biogas, carbon-neutral housing, smart agriculture, water management, and local employment. A smart village is not simply a housing project. It is a community where people can live, work, learn, receive medical care, and rebuild their lives together. At the site, the delegation reviewed the potential of several candidate locations, including areas around Zolotonosha. However, large areas of land and ambitious plans alone cannot guarantee success. Legal conditions, infrastructure, community participation, the responsibilities of local government, and realistic financing must all be carefully examined. Rather than promoting a large vision too quickly, the delegation intends to begin with a small pilot project that can actually be implemented under local conditions. Then that night, an air raid alert sounded in Kyiv. The citizens checked the warning and continued their daily routines with remarkable calm. After years of repeated alerts, air raid warnings had become part of everyday life. But before dawn, the sound of incoming drones, air defense systems, and intermittent explosions began to fill the night. The walls and windows of the hotel trembled. The delegation moved to a protected area without windows and surrounded by thick walls. On Telegram's real-time alert map, the movements of drones and missiles continued to appear. The war was no longer a distant story in the news. It was happening in the very place where we were staying. The delegation remained in the shelter area for approximately 4 hours, while the air raid alert continued. For about 1 hour, the sounds of explosions and air defense activity were especially intense. That night, we understood something very clearly. War is not a game, and reconstruction cannot be viewed only through numbers, contracts, or business opportunities. Real people are still living there, trying to survive, one day at a time. After the long air raid, morning finally came. Buses and cars began moving again. Cafes started serving coffee. Shops opened as usual. The people of Kyiv were not living normally because they felt no fear. They were continuing their lives because they had chosen not to surrender to fear. The greatest strength we witnessed in Ukraine was this resilience. The people had lost so much, but they had not given up on their future. Yet courage and good intentions alone cannot complete reconstruction. Successful projects require verified plans, realistic financing, clear responsibilities, and trustworthy local partners. EUREXS and the Korean delegation will complete the Smart Village proposal and feasibility study. The next step is to begin with a practical pilot project that local residents can experience directly. Biogas, carbon-neutral housing, trauma care, local employment. The goal is to create a small but successful model and then expand that experience to other cities and regions. Ukraine is not a country simply waiting for help. It is an equal partner that is protecting its daily life and working with the international community to build a new future. Our role is not to impose the Korean way. It is to listen to the voices of the Ukrainian people, understand the reality on the ground, and plan and act together. As we left Kyiv, we prayed quietly. May those who endured last night's air raid sleep peacefully tonight. May children grow up hearing school bells instead of air raid sirens. And may the lights that one day brighten Kyiv's night sky not come from missiles or air defense systems, but from the celebration of peace. This visit was not simply a record of a business trip. It was a journey in which we witnessed the reality of war, heard the pain and hope of the people, and discovered Ukraine's potential. Now what matters most is not more words. It is action. We will keep small promises, create small successes, and carry that hope to the next city, beyond the war, toward hope. Together, we are building the future of Ukraine.